Good morning, Abraham. I have to tell you that I agree totally with what you have just said, that well-being abounds. And when the whole thing in New York City happened, my mother called me and said, "Do you have the television on?" And I said, "No." And I wouldn't turn it on. And my husband called and said, "Do you have the television on?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you better call your son, because he's in Boston and he travels that route." So then I got nervous and worried, and I called Dan. He was fine. He was at home, and I said, well, maybe I'd better check this out. So I checked it out, and then I turned it off and said, I'm not going to talk to you about this right now. I'm going to go for a walk. And I tried to wrap my head around all of it, and reaching for the thought that felt better was really a godsend to me, because it immediately helped me to begin to analyze and say, what's the point? Why would these people choose this thing? And then where are we going with it? So in my view, I think that it's a wonderful opportunity to pivot a lot of things that a lot of people had been asking for. So, listening to your tapes for the last 5 years put me in a place of that. And so I just have a totally, and I'm being politically incorrect and trying to be very quiet about it, because it's really difficult for me to talk to people
Do you think,
feeling this way.
as you're knowing what you're knowing,
Yeah.
do you think that it would be advantageous for groups of connected people to gather together and launch rockets of desire? In other words, talk about what is wanted and the way they want this to go.
Oh, absolutely. And I have.
But the reason that we ask this is because we're wanting to offer just a little bit of guidance around that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing that we most want you to hear is that everybody's been asking
Yeah.
anyway,
Yes.
with
I
or
agree.
without this. And
agree.
Source Energy has been answering anyway. So does it feel that it is necessary to have these kind of experiences in order to sharpen desire, or is it just all right that we have these kinds of experiences to sharpen desire? In other words, what we're wanting to do here is to diffuse just a little bit the sense that we need these kinds of exaggerated, contrasting things, because while they will happen and while they are always beneficial, we don't have to go looking for them, because it is enough that whatever you are living is causing you to ask, and whatever you are asking for, it is always given. You get a sense of what we are talking about? Mm-hmm. And so we think that the greatest advantage that any of you could offer to this situation would be to get back into the details of your own life experience, looking at the well-being that surrounds you, because as you look into the world arena for a while, through the medium that it's being offered to you on, you are not going to find your way to absence of resistance. In other words, as you look at the world stage, which is playing out whatever game that they are wanting to play out, it is almost certain that you will find disconnection. As you withdraw from the world stage and you look for things to appreciate and reasons to connect within the closeness of your own personal life experience, then lots of individuals who are returning to the details of their own life, who have been aggravated or activated or inspired to greater desire than ever before, will receive greater and renewed benefit. Mm-hmm. You see what we are getting at? It is sort of like the volcano that erupts or the forest fire that comes, and it seems devastating at first until you see all kinds of new growth coming from it. There is always benefit from all of that. But the reason that we are offering some qualifications here is because we are not wanting to get on the bandwagon of we need these kinds of things in order to inspire clarity, because clarity is coming out of the details of what you are living. We are not wanting to get on the bandwagon that says we need to gather together in prayer vigils and we need to soothe the planet, we need to heal the planet, because the planet does not need to be soothed, the planet does not need to be healed. What that is really talking about is let's find a way of getting together and forcing conformity on a whole lot of minds, and you're not ever going to be able to do that. In other words, it's a battle that you will never win. It is a much healthier stance to say there are all kinds of people that want all kinds of different things, and source energy has the means to give them all exactly what they are wanting, and some of them will push against others, and in doing so they will disconnect from source energy, and their own life experience will not be one of thriving, and there will be those that will thrive enormously as a result of the energy that is flowing. We've been saying for some time that you all came forth in this time of exaggerated contrast because you knew it would be a time when more energy would flow. And you've been hearing us say, others are recognizing it on many, many levels, that the crevasse between those who have and those who have not is becoming greater and greater and greater and greater because the energy is moving faster. And when the energy moves faster and you flow with it, you really flow. When the energy moves faster and you resist it, you really resist. So those who are well are remarkably well, and those who are sick are remarkably sick, and those who are joyful are remarkably joyful, and those who are angry are remarkably angry. In other words, the contrast, it's like a giant magnifying glass is being laid on everything, and everything is being amplified. And all you have to do is you decide from where you stand, what are you going to look for? Do you want to yes your way? Are you going to use this as your excuse to connect or not connect? Are you going to go with the flow of this extraordinary energy? Or are you going to use the event that caused the energy as your excuse not to allow it to flow through you? In other words, these are very simple options, and your guidance system is letting you know every moment of every day what choices you are making.
Right.
Yes.
I agree. Yes.
Someone says, how do we soothe the children? And we say, stop trying to soothe the children. Stop making it a major issue. Stop talking about it. Withdraw from the subject of it. Get back to your own life experience. Then your children will be all right, you see. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just on another, as an observer, because I've been able to work with the materials, and I really do believe that death is no more than the cat going in and out of the door. Outside, inside, outside, inside. I really do believe that. And to observe, I was really impressed at how much, what a big thing could be created by so many people paying attention to so many different elements. It was an impressive display of the power of the law of attraction.
Yes,
and
stated.
That's what I used it for.
Excellent.
Now, on a more personal note.
Now, why are you shrinking there?
Well, because this is...
Do you feel a little guilty in utilizing universal resources or even time to discuss things as unimportant as the personal details of your life when something so big is floating out there?
Maybe. Maybe.
We watched Esther as she gathered a handful of placemat processes that she'd written in the days that preceded. Mm-hmm. And as she looked at what she'd delegated to the universe, she felt extremely guilty and selfish to even be contemplating those things when it seemed that there were bigger things to ask for now that were more of a global scope. And we said to her, don't start believing in shortage now all of a sudden. Don't start believing or retracing your steps into old beliefs that say, there's only so much well-being to go around, and they need it in New York now, so I better not ask for any.
Oh.
There are bigger needs, and so I'll hold off on anything. I won't smile for a while, so they'll be able to smile more. I won't ask for those petty, insignificant things in the face of real need. And we say, there is no shortage. The universe can answer them and you, them and you, them and you, them and you. That has never been the question. The question is, them or you, are you letting it in? You see. So and when you feel guilty or like you shouldn't ask, you're not letting it in. And incidentally, as you know already, mm-hmm. You're not letting your well-being in doesn't provide a stockpile for someone else.
True. I agree.
The entire concepts of virtue, goodness, and all the other things that, martyrdom, all these things that we seem to, as humans, hold so highly, are they not, they actually, through Abraham's eyes, don't really exist. I mean, the idea of virtue is that one thing is very good, the other thing is very bad. And as I've understood Abraham, everything is basically subjective depending on your position. It's a matter of perception. So there can be no virtue except the virtue that you yourself see for yourself. In other words, it's very good because I feel very good. This makes it a virtue as opposed to the world sees it as good, so therefore I shall suffer. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay.
The words are tricky because different words mean
Yes.
different things to different people at different times.
Right.
Even the word pride
Yes.
is one of those words, or patriotism. In other words, let's talk about the word patriotism.
I was going to. Yes.
When someone says, I am patriotic, for some, your heart swells in a feeling of appreciation for where you are. And for some, the feeling of patriotism makes them want to push very hard against something that they feel threatens it, you see. And so the same word can be felt very differently under those situations. And so we're not so encouraging of finding words to gather around as we are reaching for the feeling of the fullness of who you are. In other words,
Yes, as a human, since we're stuck with words, I'm trying to remove myself from them, and that's why the question, I mean, the idea of understanding, trying to get through when virtue is such a big thing, and people are...
When you say stuck with words, we think words are wonderful because they bring you to places of communication.
Yes.
In other words, the
And they separate them.
fact that words are being offered here gives a lot of focusers an opportunity to rendezvous
True.
in a short period of time and move forward very fast. So let's take the word patriotism for just a
Yes.
moment. When we say the word doesn't really make you stuck, just feel the difference between patriotism as you are enjoying your great space and loving your heritage and appreciating where you be and loving your life and focusing upon the positive aspects of what surrounds you and feeling joy in your now, as opposed to patriotism in that hateful picking up the sword and
Killing them,
defending.
right. Yep.
In other words,
Yep.
you can tell they are very different feelings utilizing the same word. And so all we are suggesting is when you are paying attention to the way you feel, then you are allowing the fullness of who you are. And only when you are allowing the fullness of who you are you really enjoying this life experience in the way you've intended. You cannot be separate from who you are and even come close to fulfilling your reason for being or enjoying it in the way you intended. That's why being connected to who you are feels so wonderful. It's why you gravitate toward it. It's why so many of your well-meaning intentions, many of them that go astray, exist to begin with. In other words, we don't know of anything that anybody wants or has ever wanted. Anything. A material object, a state of being, a state of world events. Nothing. No desire that we've ever seen focused within anyone was for any other reason that they believed, the individual believed that in the having of it, that they would feel better.
Right.
In other words, it is the most innate, natural, some call it selfish, we call it gloriously selfish,
Right.
impulse that comes forth from within. And what that means is that all of you are still rooted or connected to that knowledge that it is good to feel good. We have enjoyed this interaction immensely. It is wonderful to come together with those like you who are coming more and more in every day to understand that you are the creator of your own experience. Worry not. Well-being abounds. Be playful about it. Look for thoughts that feel good. Trust that your inner being knows what's best. Reach for thoughts that your inner being joins you fully in. Or better stated, reach for thoughts that cause you to allow the fullness of who you are to flow. And it is our promise to you that you will continue to thrive, for it is the nature of who you are. There is great love here for you. We are complete.